Google has now officially made Gemini their new AI model. Bard is now Gemini. So as they say right here, all the capabilities you know and love are still here and will keep getting better in the Gemini era. So now Google has moved on from Bard and they're in Gemini. So let's take a look at Gemini, see what are the features, what can it do, is it really worth it, is it going to work? If we first just take a look at Google's page, we can see that this is now the Gemini era. This is something they've been talking about since December, but now it's official. Bard is no more, and Gemini, which is Google's most capable AI, is now the model that people can use. And I think what's unique about Gemini is that it can, as it says right here, their Gemini models are built from the ground up for multimodality, which means that it can be seamlessly used for text, images, audio, video, and code. So across all these different mediums. So if we just take another look as well at Gemini, we'll notice that there is two options available currently. There's normal Gemini, and then there's Gemini Advanced, which you have to pay a monthly fee, similar to what we've seen with ChatGPT, where if you want to get access to GPT-4, you're going to have to pay to get access to that. But let's just get started and test it out. Like, what are the sort of results that we get if we use Gemini? They give us a few options here. I'm sick and I need help crafting a text message from my boss. That's interesting. Brainstorm team bonding activities for our work retreat. Okay, so let's say brainstorm some ideas for our summer work retreat. I think another thing that's worth noting is like the user display, like the user interface. It's a lot nicer now. It just works a lot easier and it just looks nicer, I would say. Double check response. Okay. Modify response. Interesting. More casual, simpler, longer, shorter. Okay. Bad response, good response. Alright, let's just try some of the things that I was really curious to take a look at. Okay, so I have this image right here, and I'm gonna enter a prompt and say, what animation character does this fish look like? And let's just see what it's able to create. So I have this image here of a fish. It's called a clownfish. That's from like Finding Nemo. I'm gonna ask it, what character does it look like? Let's see what this response. Okay, that's pretty impressive. So it says the clownfish in this image closely resembles Nemo, the main character from Disney's Pixar 2003 animated film Finding Nemo. Nemo is an orange clownfish. Here are some other animated clownfish characters. So that's pretty good, actually. That's pretty accurate. So alongside the ability to actually be creative and come up with things like stories or novels or poems, one thing that I did want to test was how it was able to generate images. So I'll just start with saying something like, generate a photorealistic image of a camel eating candy. And let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so obviously it's able to do the image correctly. I'd say probably not as good as like Midjourney, but it's definitely pretty decent. And the fact that it's built into Gemini, that you can use it without having to leave the app, is actually pretty useful as well, because it just understands everything that you enter in. But I'll just do this again and say, draw an image, draw a camel as a cartoon that's eating candy, just to compare the difference between these two. But obviously I'd say it definitely generates pretty well, and especially, you know, this is the first time that we're seeing this done on Gemini, and obviously this is something that was not available before. Okay, so obviously this is a cartoon. It was able to do that pretty well. I wouldn't say that these are that great, especially since I don't see any candy here, but the fact that it's built in is pretty, I think that's probably where it takes the lead compared to anything else. There's nothing else that does that. And let's just see how good it is at identifying. So I'll just download this image that it generated, and then I will say, describe what is going on in this image. And I'm just going to use the image that was generated, just to see how well it can interpret what it's generating itself. The image you sent shows a close-up of a camel's mouth with a red lollipop in it. The camel's lips are wrapped around the lollipop and its tongue is visible behind it. The background appears to be blurred, suggesting that the photo was taken outdoors, possibly in a desert environment. I cannot be sure for certain, but it is possible that the lollipop was given to the camel as a treat. I think it's safe to say that this is an incredibly detailed description, so I think that's pretty impressive if you actually think about how detailed the description is. It even goes into more detail, saying while it is not harmful to the camel for a short period, it is important to remember that lollipops are not a natural part of the camel's diet and should not be given to them regularly. So first it was able to identify exactly what was going on in the image. It was able to give some more context, and then it was able to give a recommendation. I think that's pretty impressive. So if we think about all the things that it's able to do, and it can role play characters from novels, can write code with such a good user interface as well. It's pretty compelling, actually, I would say. So I think in terms of the fact that it's got the creativity, it's got the functionality, it's able to generate images, it's able to describe the images with really good precision, and on top of that, it's also able to even give recommendations based on that. So I think, as I was saying, it's definitely the most capable model from what Google has come out. I think it's safe to say that this is pretty advanced as it says in the name, and it's definitely something that's worth taking note of in terms of what it can do and how good it is at what it can do, actually. I mean, that was really impressive with the camel. So here I was just like, create a business logo for an AI company, and basically it was able to go into some detail of like different design styles, what you might think, why you would choose that, some of the design tips, the brainstorming. And then if I was to say, okay, well, generate the designs, it's able to actually generate these designs based on the previous discussions that you were having. So this is the abstract brain, this is the circuitry maze, cogs and code. So it's almost like you're having an assistant that's with you, that's still able to generate all of these things as you work with it. So it's like you're working together to create all of this stuff, and it's actually pretty decent, I would say, these local designs. So I think honestly there's actually so much within Gemini, and I think you could just keep going on into these models. That's just my take on it. So it's obviously quite advanced. It's the most advanced model that they have. But do you think that it's going to be useful? Or like, do you think that, this is something that you're going to be using? I think I'm definitely going to be using it. Between Gemini and ChatGPT, I'll probably be using both, but what do you think? Is this something that you're also interested in? Have you tried Gemini? Have you given it a try to see how it works, how well it works? Just, leave what you think, and let's take a look at how things change into the future with this model. It's pretty exciting, so we'll see how it goes.